What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It is time for the preview show for Sunday's Scottish Cup semi-final at Hampden against Rangers. I've got Kenny and Chris with me to look ahead to this one. We've got a jam-packed show tonight. We're going to look at Celtic's recent form, obviously look back to that last derby at Ibrox, discuss everything on the game, and we're coming to your questions that you've sent in on YouTube and Twitter over the last few days. So, Kenny, I'll come to you first, mate. That 7-0 victory over St Johnstone last weekend was a big one. It was a great victory, but more so, it was one of the most complete performances that we've seen this season. Where would you say that ranks in all your years watching Celtic, that performance?
I mean, it's tough to rank it against every game I've watched, but usually when you're watching a game and it's Celtic are doing well, the feelings are entertainment and sort of euphoria, and that was there. But occasionally you just sit back and you're just proud of what you've saw. And that was one of those games where at the end of it, you just felt proud of what you'd seen, because you could see the intensity of the training every day. You could see it just pour itself out and manifest itself in that absolutely stunning performance. Everybody knew their own role. The volume of passes, I don't know what the volume of passes was, but it must have been nearing, if not a record. And what that tells you is that everyone has trust in one another. Everyone knows everyone's position. You don't have that volume of passes if you're not an integrated side that trust one another. Some of the individual performances were just superb from a technical point of view. But even the back four, the back four, at the start, I used to think, well, Starfelt and Carter-Vickers, they don't really break the lines in the way that Ayer did and the way that Van Dijk did. But over time, you realise that's deliberate. That's a disciplined performance that just takes them into an area that allows the team to have its shape. So the whole thing was just amazing to watch. And when you see Maeda at 7-0 up, bombing back to the left back position to dig out his left back at 7-0 when he's already had a miracle game, it just jaw dropping, really. So the other big thing that came out of it was the depth in the squad. I mean, if you look, we were scrambling to put a side here. Look at that side that we fielded against St Mirren away. Well, we're literally bringing in youth players, people on the bench you'd never heard of. Now we're bringing on Turnbull, we're bringing on O'Reilly. O'Reilly was world class when he came on in that match. I mean, I love O'Reilly. I don't how we got him for £1 million at the age of 21. God knows where he's going to end up, but we're going to get a massive fee for him and some brilliant years service. So the depth in the squad was brilliant. You're bringing on Kyogo, who's just a superstar. So the whole thing was just left you purring at the end of it. You have to sort of temper it with the fact that it's against a team near the bottom of the league and you're at home and they can crumble. But it's not often you win 7-0, and it's even rarer that you win it in that style.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the volume of passes there, Chris. I think it was almost 1,000. I've certainly never seen a pass count like that from a Celtic game. What have you made? Obviously, a wee while since you've been on. What have you made of the form since the turn of the year? We're now 34 domestic games, undefeated, and just since that break in the winter, we just seem to have hit another gear.
Yeah, it's been absolutely superb. The form of the team, the form of individuals and the collective has just been absolutely superb. And the other lot across the other side of the city would tell you that we've not been consistent. But the reason we are where we are at the top of the table, 6 points clear with 5 games to go, is because of our level of consistency, the level of performance, the level of energy, the drive, the commitment to implementing Postecoglou's system to a T is the reason we are where we are. I've been extremely impressed with the side's form since the turn of the year. If memory serves me right, I think we've only dropped 2 points, that one tie or one draw, which is just absolutely unbelievable to put that string of results together. We went in 6 points behind before the new year, and now we're 6 points clear. So it's really a remarkable swing. Kenny mentioned it. It was a record. That was a record-setting game for us for the number of passes, over 1,000. The 6th goal alone, I watched it back, 45 passes before the ball was put in the net. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And I mean, the finish from O'Reilly into the top corner was just but the sublime, but the play leading up to that, and just our play overall, even in games where we haven't played particularly well, we've been able to manufacture wins and results. Second half against Rangers at Ibrox, I thought we were absolutely superb in our control of the game. Finding a way to win that match was just absolutely superb.
Yeah, absolutely. You touch on the game at Ibrox there, and we'll come to that in a wee bit more detail shortly. But Kenny, one of the things I remember saying at the start of the season was that if we were going to turn this around and have a real tilt at the title, there was 3 fixtures that I thought we had to really improve in, and that was Livingston away, Hibs away, with poor records at both of those grounds, but also winning the derbies, because the pendulum had swung in Rangers' favour in the last 18 months to 2 years. But we sit here now, having won the last 2, a massively comfortable 3-0 victory. We blew them away at Celtic Park, and then a different type of victory at Ibrox, but probably even more so. That mentally, that probably benefited the team even more so. And to come into this semi-final now with the position that we're in the league, but also having that boost and confidence and winning these last 2 fixtures will do the team the world of good for Sunday, won't it?
Yeah, and as you touched on it there, they were contrasting victories. So one game you're playing with the trademark Postecoglou flair and you just blow them off the park in 45 minutes. The other game you're actually behind and you just get the character Callum McGregor takes the game with the scruff of the neck and you just get the character to get your nose in front. But the most satisfying part out of both of those games for me, and it perhaps wasn't the most exciting, but it was just how we defended our box in the last 30 minutes of the second game. Because at the start of the season, it was obvious very quickly that Postecoglou was going to play with brilliant attacking football. He brought that very quickly. What was really not apparent was how on earth were we going to keep the ball out the other net, out our own net. I mean, you look at some of the Europa League performances, brilliant attacking, but pretty embarrassing defensively when a good team was coming at you. So if you're looking for a measure of improvement, it's not necessarily in the attacking sense. It's in how resolute and organised and thorough we are as a defensive unit now. Starfelt, who looked pretty scattergun for the first 3 or 4 months, it's just a rock now. Carter Vickers has always been to some extent, but even the chemistry with the fullbacks. And Rangers will take note of that. They'll realise that they can't just catch us on the break now and try and outscore us like a game of basketball. It doesn't work anymore against Celtic. And I think they're going to be pretty fearful. It broke down the psychology of that run of defeats at the first game at Celtic Park. But to beat them on their own patch and to beat them with a fair degree of control when they threw everything at us, they weren't fatigued that day. They had a 2-week international break, as did Celtic. So I think the psychology of the fixture has changed. I think that tactically within the game, we're a better side because of the way we're organised. They don't like the pace that we've got up front. They can't cope with it. The amount of times that we break them down through the centre, just through relatively quick counter-attacking play, has got them worried. And we've got options in the bench whereby I don't see them having a great deal of options. So I think that the recent form and everything tells you that it swings in our favour in terms of being favourites. But obviously, in a Celtic Rangers game, there's never truly a favourite. There's a lot of variables, but I'm feeling confident getting into it on the strength of those games.
Yeah. Another thing we're going to touch on before we finish is the Player of the Year. The club put up the voting for Player of the Year yesterday, so we'll get the thoughts of the guys before we finish up on that. Chris, Kenny talked about the strength of the defence there, and that was really highlighted in that second half at Ibrox. We look like a much more solid unit now, and to go behind so early in that game, you feared the worst, but the resilience of the team to come back and then to defend the way we did shows that we've got 2 sides to our game. It's not all pretty football and it's not all out attack. We've got that really strong spine now, and we can defend when we have to.
Yeah, I mean, we could have finished the game if Abada scores. McGregor makes a great save, don't get me wrong. If Abada scores 3-1, I think probably would have reflected the balance of play. But the fact that Rangers really didn't carve us open in the second half is a testament to, and it's almost to Kenny's point earlier in the season, we had some really tough losses away from home in Europe because we couldn't defend, but we were great going forward. And part of me ever wondered, it's not it's not that Postecoglou's telling them to sit back, but I feel like the players within the game, how they manage the game, he trusts them to implement his system. And I do feel that we really look to hit Rangers, not quite on the counter attack, but when we really had the opportunities to generate those overlaps and create pressure and put good balls into the box, it would really cause them a lot of problems. But many a man would be rattled by the opening phase of the game. Juranovic got absolutely done inside by Kent, and then Ramsey scores, and Rangers were all over us at that point. And the character of the team and the belief that we play our football despite if we go behind, nothing changes, right? And that's the thing that Postecoglou has really laid a foundation for a great Celtic side for the next 3, 4, 5 years, as long as he wants to be manager. And the depth of the squad, Kenny alluded to it, like when you're bringing off Turnbull, Kyogo, O'Reilly, or Rogic, depending on who starts the game, that's frightening. I mean, it's just players that can come on and have an immediate impact to the game. And for all I have slated him in the past, Greg Taylor's been absolutely magnificent lately, playing that inverted fullback role and being very sound defensively. He made a fantastic tackle right inside the box. If he mistimes that, that's a stonewall penalty, right? And those are the fine margins in games sometimes. But I've been really, really impressed with just the overall play, our defensive nature. And we haven't mentioned his name, but let's just talk about how influential Joe Hart has been on that back line. I think I read somewhere that Starfelt and Carter Vickers don't tend to actually communicate that much in a game, and it's actually Joe Hart that's like directing them and really making sure that they are dialed into what it is that they're being asked to do. So it's just a marvelous combination, that back five with McGregor sitting in front. Really fantastic to watch.
Yeah, Joe Hart has been absolutely massive for us, so influential since he arrived in the summer. Kenny, Rangers obviously came out the blocks in that game at Ibrox, their home crowd behind them, as you would expect. How do you think they'll approach this game at Hampden? Because it's 50-50 crowd, which is quite unique in this fixture, certainly nowadays. Do you think they'll try and come out? I know they've got a taxing game tonight as we speak, but do you think they'll approach it in the same way? Obviously, the game at Celtic Park, we were the aggressors because we had the home advantage and we took the game to them for the off. But how do you think they'll approach it? Do you think they might be more cautious this time?
Hard to judge, because coming out the traps obviously did work for them. I mean, they were caught a bit unexpectedly by that Rogic goal. It was against the run of play. But I'd like to think we'll be more ready for that. I mean, once that's happened to you, a couple of weeks later, you're mentally prepared for that, and I think we'd be more organised. Part of the problem at the start of that game was, and I would never want Postecoglou to compromise his principles. My God, why would we? But just in the early stages of a Celtic Rangers game, just when it's settling down, let's maybe be a bit more pragmatic at the back and get the ball forward in a bit of a safer way. I'd like Celtic to sort of, until the game settles down, maybe just play a bit more straightforward stuff in their own box, certainly. So Rangers may well come at us quick, but I think we'll be prepared for it. I'd expect that what Celtic did tactically last time was force them into wide areas. They were quite happy for them to have the ball wide, because they knew that when they would swing the balls in, they didn't have the physicality of Morelos to get on top of it. I mean, Roof was ineffective at Celtic Park, and he was ineffective in that game because Carter Vickers and Starfelt just outmuscled them. So I suspect that they'll probably change something in terms of trying to play the ball, try and create a bit more pockets of space, maybe in the 10, or try and create a bit more pockets of space in and around the box. Kent might be a bit more direct on the deck. I expect that might be a change in their philosophy. But again, we can handle that. What we've done well in the last 34 game unbeaten run is it's not a one trick pony that wins us games. We've won games 7-0. We've won games equally in the last dying embers of the match. We've won a game against Rangers with brilliant flair. We've won a game against Rangers with our backs to the wall. So we know how to handle all different types of environments within a game. And I'm pretty confident. I mean, look, Rangers are looks like they're going to get in the semi-finals of European Cup. And there's no point in sitting here saying they're going to be mugs and we're going to roll over them. They are going to cause us problems. But I do believe that we're equipped to handle whatever they throw at us. And short of just, they'll probably play the ball a bit more in the deck and try and get the ball a bit forward, a bit quicker. But they don't have a magic wand, and that's what they're probably going to need to handle us.
Yeah, that was a big change in the second half in that game. We really gave up the wide areas and we were comfortable to deal with the crosses that Rangers were swinging in. Chris, thinking back in the week building up to that game at Ibrox, I had that feeling. I talked about it in the post-match pint. I had the feeling that we were going to win, and that doesn't often happen in these games. I feel like there's a bit of your mind that will never let you believe that we're going to win before the game. Never be fully confident. But this game on paper, I mean, it's not going to be easy by any means, but on paper, this game is surely easier than that one at Ibrox because we have 50-50 split in the crowd. We've got a great record at Hampden. The players, I say a great record at Hampden, and people might think, well, is it really this team that's got a great record? But they do have the positive association with being there the last time, picking up a trophy, the League Cup in the first half of the season. So even the new players have that feeling that going to Hampden is associated with good things for them. So in many ways, as I say, on paper, this game looks easier than the one at Ibrox.
I can't dispute that on paper it looks easier. I do believe it will be let me rephrase. I'd be shocked if it's another 3-0 win for us and a really dominant performance, right? There isn't much between the teams. In the game at Celtic Park, we were absolutely ready from the off. And where the game was different than the Rangers game where they started well is we actually did kill the game off. We got the first goal after 4 minutes. We dominated the entire first half. We scored twice in 2 minutes to finish the first half, and the game was over, right? I believe if we wanted to score more goals, we probably could have done. The game at Ibrox, obviously they got the quick start. Like Kenny said, the Rogic goal was probably against the run of play, but I think the goal that put us in front was not, and then we did see out the game really, really well. One observation that you made about coming out of the break and the level of training, and like what Kenny was saying, the week-long training going into the St. Johnstone game, that's going to happen on Sunday. We will be ready to play. We will be switched on. And I think if we play to the level that we have done in the recent games, having the psychological advantage of beating them home and away, one comfortable, one with our backs to the wall, that's the part on paper that leads me to believe that we are the favourites going into the game. And I think if we score the first goal, I worry about the psychological crumbling of their team, because they won't fancy trying to chase the game, because we will absolutely exploit them in behind if they're chasing the game. If it's any combination of Kyogo, Jota, oh my goodness, forgetting his name now. Maeda, out wide, we're going to absolutely just torture them at the back. And Abada as well has really shown up in these games. So all the positive things are in our favour. Yeah, unbeaten at Hampden in a long time, 5-6 years. Confidence will be high. And also our energy levels should be higher and will be higher.
Kenny, those factors do stack in our favour, but just to caveat again, the game at Ibrox was really, really tough. Those factors just change it a wee bit and hopefully make the external environment a wee bit easier for the Celtic team. But when you think about the back-to-back victories in this fixture, the position we've found ourselves in the league, if we are to go and win this game on Sunday, coming back to that positive feeling I had before the last game, and your mind never really letting you believe it, I think considering winning this game would put us in the Scottish Cup final and a matter of games from a treble, there's a bit of your mind that says, surely this was too good to be true, considering where we come from this season.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if we win, we're odds on for the treble, aren't we? I mean, you're the league, we're certainly odds on for the league, and you'd be odds on to beat Hearts or Hibs. Now, if we were to get a treble out of this season, you know, we've had more sort of, it won't go down in the annals of history as the most famous treble, right? We had a treble when we won the European Cup. We've had an invincible treble. we've had a quadruple treble. They'll be the ones that will go down in 50 years' time, people will remember. But I'm 41 years old. This would be the most satisfying treble that I have ever seen if we achieve it, on the premise that when we did the Invincible treble, it was magnificent. We won the league with 39 points. We were so dominant. It was validating that we won the treble, but you kind of would have expected a team that far ahead to almost win those domestic trophies. This, when we were so written off, people like Hugh even saying, well, they'll be third in the league. People like Chris Boyd saying, well, what's the point in Postecoglou even turning up? Maybe as well just turn them back at the airport. They've just been proven to be fools, because we've come from a position like that to now on the cusp of, if we win on Sunday, winning everything that there is to offer. For me, that would be the most odd-defying, the most satisfying, and one of the most, probably the most special treble of all of my Celtic supporting lifetime. Now, all that being said, that is the stuff of dreams, isn't it? If someone had said to us in August, I remember we were on the channel after Hearts beat us, and you kind of at that point probably agreed with you, Keevans. So if somebody said to you at that point, you're going to be sitting on the channel in April on the cusp of a treble, you just would have thought that they were in, they were in fantasy land, someone suggesting that to you. So I understand why you think it's almost too good to be true, but it is true. And look, at the end of the day, trebles are brilliant, but I think we've done enough this season to be happy. Certainly if we can get the league over the line, it would be a brilliant bonus to win on Sunday and win the treble. Let's not get too greedy, but yeah, I mean, it is fantasy fairy tale stuff, I have to say, to reach this point.
Aye, and to be fair, it being too good to be true means nothing. If we turn up on Sunday and we put in a high level performance, we can win the game and we can have that dream into the season, but we just need to approach each game as we have done so far this season. It's got us to this point, and if we can keep up this performance level, then who knows how the season will end. Chris, I want to talk about team selection. A few headaches for the manager. The squad is in the strongest position it's been in all season, the healthiest position that it's been in all season. Only Yakimakis and Turnbull are a slight doubt for the weekend. I want to come to the first question that one of the viewers has sent in. Undercover Brother 67 on YouTube said, who should be the trio in the middle of the park? McGregor's a stick on, but who are the other two that should play with him? And that is one of the big areas of debate, the midfield. So many options for the manager, real quality in there. You've seen it in that game against St Johnstone. Who would you go with?
Oh, emphatically, it's McGregor, Rogic, Hatai. Easy. That's a no-brainer. How do you not play Tom Rogic after his performance at Ibrox? He was the best player on the park until Carter Vickers took over the game defensively, right? Rogic was just eating Rangers alive in that 10 spot. I would be absolutely shocked if it's not McGregor, Hatai, and Rogic in the middle of the park. To me, that gives us the best balance in there, with McGregor in the 6 and then Hatai being in that kind of 8 role, and he's free to kind of roam around, can come deep, he can push forward, he's got a goal in him. And then Rogic is just, he's a magician with the ball at his feet. He can make something happen out of absolutely nothing. And he's been a fantastic servant to this club. And he has been a big game player against Rangers. And they are fearful of him as a player, because if he switched on, I love our chances of creating lots of big opportunities.
Positive associations, Kenny. I talked about positive associations for some of the new players with Hampden Park, but my God, Tom Rogic in Hampden Park. There's a few memories there, isn't there? So he is one player in this game that you would back if the manager is to pick him, and we've seen that at Ibrox. Yeah,
I agree with Chris. I would pick the same midfield three that he's suggested there, and Rogic would be obviously not ahead of McGregor in terms of first name in the team sheet, but not far behind. I mean, he can be a bit of a streaky player, Tom Rogic. You never quite know when his next quiet game's going to come, and that's kind of because of his physique. I think you never know when he's going to throw one in terms of looking a bit unfit. But this is probably his most consistent season. He had a little bit of a quiet spell a month ago, but in terms of some of the real swashbuckling stuff that he's capable of. He's produced it with the frequency probably more this season than he has in the 9 or 10 years that he's been at the club. So I just don't think you can drop him. Nobody can cope with him, and people can't cope with him at a high level of the game. Rangers can't cope with his ability to control the ball close into feet, his ability to score, his wiry, rangy frame that holds people off, his vision. He's a perfect foil, because if we might be forced, I mean, playing Kyogo is a luxury, but we might have to play Kyogo whereby we're a bit more reliant on balls in behind the centre-backs rather than putting balls, more aggressive, higher balls into Giakoumakis. And the guy that's absolutely primed to do that is Rogic. So definitely he starts for me all day long.
Yeah, that is the other big question. Chris Callum 041888 on Twitter. Does Ange rush Kyogo back or play Maeda up front if Giakoumakis is not fit? Tough one. Where do you stand on it?
So I don't think Gigi will be fit. I think for sure you'd be risking further injury. I think just if he felt something tight 6 days ago, there's no way you play him in this game and potentially keep him out for the end of the season, where you want him to be involved because he's been an integral part of our run. For me, Kyogo won't start the game. I truly believe that. As much as I would like him to in my heart, I don't think he starts the game. I think it's Jota on the left, Maeda through the middle, and Abada on the right. I believe that will be the front three. Maeda's really shown me something over the last 4 weeks. I mean, his energy levels are just unparalleled in world football. I have never seen a player like that run he had at the game at the end at Ibrox. I was like, how are you closing 30, 40 yards when all you've done is run for 90 minutes? It's unrivaled. And his movement off the ball has been getting a lot better. And I just think that combination between Rogic, Hatate, Jota, Abada, and Maeda through the middle will cause Rangers a world of problems. Now, if Kyogo starts, we all know what he's capable of, right? At best, though, I think he gives you 45 minutes, maybe 60, but I think that's pushing it given how long he's been away. If the game is delicately balanced or we need to find a goal, he is the type of impact player I'd want to bring off the bench. If he's not got more than 30, 40 minutes in him, that's the move Postecoglou makes. You can also put O'Reilly in for Rogic, and you've got another creative player in there. O'Reilly's been magnificent. Like Kenny says, oof, £1 million. What a bargain that is. Like he's going to be a 25, 30 million player in the future. Whether we sell him for that, someone will, because he is just absolutely outrageous. What a find that is. But that's who I think the front three will be.
I think I follow that argument, but I would play Kyogo. I think if you do what Chris has suggested there, you disrupt three positions. So because Maeda has been brilliant on that left-hand side, he's not been that effective for Celtic at centre forward, and Jota's really found a home on that right-hand side. So purely on the strength of the fact that if you bring Kyogo in through the middle and a like for like, you can just keep Maeda and Jota in those positions where they've been absolutely deadly in the last few games, and you're not disrupting three positions. I do get that Kyogo would be a better impact sub, but Abada causes them hell. Abada, they hate Abada. He causes chaos when he comes on as a sub. So you've got him there to come in the right-hand side. It's a tough call, but that might be game-defining, his decision there. Personally, I would go with Kyogo through the middle, but Chris's argument is just as valid. It's a really tough decision.
Aye, as a hard one. It's even thinking back to the game at Ibrox where Kyogo wasn't involved that day, but before the game there was speculation that he could have been involved, and I talked about who's the better sub. Is it better to start with Giakoumakis and bring Kyogo off the bench, or vice versa? If Giakoumakis isn't involved, it's a different proposition with Abada coming on. You would think Maeda would then go through the middle, although Abada has deputised there at some points this season. But that is a really tough one because Kyogo, maybe a couple of weeks down the line, absolute no-brainer, would start the game, but he's only really played 20 minutes in the last 4 months, so that is a real tough one for the manager, but you trust him to get it right because big calls in the last game at Ibrox. in terms of Rogic, in terms of going with Giakoumakis and leaving Kyogo out, saying after the game that he was comfortable we could handle it without Kyogo. I thought that was a big statement, but we trust him to get it right. Chris, there's got to be a mental and physical drain on the Rangers team from tonight's tie against Braga, regardless of the outcome, you would think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where I think Celtic need to really impose their game on Rangers in the first 20, 30 minutes. And if we get the first goal, like I said earlier, I feel psychologically that's going to have a big impact on the outcome of the game. I mean, what is it? Only 5 times in the last however many Celtic Rangers game is the team that's gone behind actually come back to win. So it's a very rare occurrence. Now, we've done it the last 2 times. Both at Ibrox, interestingly enough. So I really like our chances if we get the first goal. Granted, at the time now, it seems like Rangers are probably going to go through. And don't get me wrong, they'll get a lift from that. But if we just start the game with the intent that we've shown over the last 34 games when we've been on, I like our chances.
Kenny, we say it every time, but the first goal is massive.
Yeah, it is, because it then gets your fans more into the game, and the whole thing can start to snowball. You would think we would have the faster start because it's a trademark of ours. We will be fresher, but then as the game wears on, that's where we should see the advantage of the fatigue. I can't imagine they're going to have great legs in the last 20 minutes. They don't have that good a squad. I mean, the sort of posturing their fans were making at the start of the season was, well, we could win the league with our starting 11 and our reserve 11. There's no way. The squad doesn't look that strong now. They can't really rotate. You might find they might bring Balogun in to try and handle the speed of Maeda or Kyogo, but there'll be limited change, so they will be tired. So as much as coming out the traps is important and try to get that first goal, I think it's also important that we've got good control of the game getting into the last sort of third of it, because that's what I see as really stamping their authority on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there. Last question sent in before we move on to the Player of the Year. Craig Corbett on YouTube and about 10 others asking about the TIFO that has been denied for the North Curve. They've put a few statements or tweets out about it. I don't know the details inside and out, but it looks like they wanted to do a display that included the tricolour. It was denied, and so they now want fans to bring as many tricolours as physically possible to the game. Hearts have got a display on Saturday. I don't know if Rangers have been allowed one, but it seems a wee bit strange, that, Chris.
It is a wee bit strange. I don't know the details behind why it was declined. If I was to guess, I'm assuming they might cite it's for religious reasons or the perception of religious reasons. I have no idea, to be completely honest, Paul. I mean, we've done other TIFOs before. I don't ever remember us doing a TIFO before with the Irish flag.
Not at Hampden.
Not at Hampden. I'm very proud of our Irish roots, and I'm a proud Scotsman. What I really had a problem with, and some people will not like me for saying this, but saying that we're going to go to the game under the banner of war and all that, I'm like, wind your neck in. It's a football game, right? I've got no time for the bigotry and the nonsense. Like, we're all here to support our club. We love our club. We're proud of our roots. We're proud of how we were founded. Let's just go and enjoy the game. It's going to be an amazing spectacle. Fantastic to have both sets of supporters. It will be an incredible atmosphere, whether we like it or not. When it's 50-50 at Hampden, it's going to be electric. Without really knowing the reasons, it's hard to comment, but I was disappointed in the other rhetoric that just popped up immediately after. That's not for me as a Celtic fan.
Kenny, I think the one thing that we'll want to see in this game that wasn't the case at Ibrox is that should we win it, that the Celtic players and the Celtic staff are safe doing their job.
Well, yeah, that's any basic human would expect that level of respect. I mean, we're not naive enough to think that going into Ibrox they're going to get a warm welcome, but there's a difference between that and having your physio's head split open and glass strewn all over the 6-yard box where Joe Hart can lacerate his legs. I mean, it's so toxic. Don't really like drawing parallels about who's worse, Celtic fans or Rangers fans, but that's just outrageous. So hopefully in Hampden, the security is different, the dynamics of the game are different because it's 50-50 and we can feel a bit more comfortable in the playing environment. But that just made that win even all the more courageous and brave, didn't it? The fact that we've had to actually go into somewhere where we're physically unsafe and come away and win, it just makes it all the sweeter.
Yeah, absolutely, and that will strengthen the belief of the team that they can go and get the job done on Sunday as well. Right, Player of the Year, big debate on it, a lot of contenders, so many standout individuals this season. Chris, I'll let you go first. Give me Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, and Goal of the Season if you want.
Goal of the season is easy. The 6th goal on the weekend against St Johnstone. 45 passes, top bin, easy. That's there's no better goal in Scottish football. It was absolutely superb. Young Player of the Year should be Abada. He's been absolutely superb. Like his goal return for a right winger.
Top scorer, yeah.
Is he top scorer? Is he Abada? Top scorer in the club? Wow.
It's easy, I think, to say that he'll be Young Player of the Year. In terms of our Player of the Year, I will say it will be Cameron Carter-Vickers because he has been so consistent and so dominant and so integral to our back line. But I'll caveat it by saying if Kyogo is fit for the entire season, like you said, Paul, in our group chat, it's a walk-off for him.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that. I think if Kyogo had stayed fit, he would have walked it. For me, it is Carter-Vickers. I think Callum McGregor's close, no doubt about that. He's been absolutely brilliant and I think proved a lot of people wrong because thinking back to the chaos at the start of the season, one of the undercurrents was that people had doubts about Callum McGregor's ability to be a captain. Wrongly, I think, because there's different styles of leadership, and I think too many people were looking for Scott Brown Mark II, and Callum McGregor was never going to be that. He's led in his own way, and that is by example on the football pitch. That run at Ibrox to get us back in the game is the best example of that. But Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think Player of the Year should be about the most consistent week in and week out, and the impact that they've had on the team. And as I say, McGregor's close because of that, but Carter-Vickers, we mentioned at the top of the show the turnaround in the defence, and he has been massive in that. He's barely been out the team since he walked in the door. He's an absolute rock. He's just been brilliant. I think he really has settled Starfelt down as well, and the two of them have built a great partnership. But it's Carter-Vickers for me for Player of the Year. It can only be Abada for Young Player, really. Matt O'Reilly's in there, but a bit unfair in Abada to give it to Matt O'Reilly after him only having been here for 5 months by the time the season finishes. And Goal of the Season for me, biased to individual moments of brilliance, it's Kyogo's win in the cup final. I just think there's something so special about it. The stage, the time in the game, the ability to do that. I don't think there's any other player on the pitch that could have done that for us. So that's the standout goal for me. Kenny, what's your picks?
It's so tough. I do agree Carter-Vickers has been the most steady and the most stable and the most 9 or 10 out of 10 every single week. And that is a fair criteria for Player of the Season. But for me, I would go McGregor just in the strength of the fact that it must have been so psychologically damaging for him last season as a Celtic man, and to come in and pick up the captaincy, to be given the captaincy in your first season and that level of transition is such a demanding ask of someone, particularly if not from someone. He does lead by example, but it lends himself more to a sort of a character who's a bit more obviously robust, that type of situation. So I feared for him a little bit, but he's just taken to it incredibly. And when when he came back, I think the one standout moment of the season, there's been so many, but if I had to pick one, when he came back with a broken face at Celtic Park, literally a broken face. We interviewed him after the game and he confirmed he had 2 fractures. To put on a mask and act like a man possessed against Rangers, bully them all over the park. And he was the heartbeat of that 3-0 victory. Okay, he didn't sort of score or create many direct assists, but he anchored everything. He deserved a medal that night for what he done, and that put us top of the league for the first time in 2 years. And I think that type of thing, coupled with the fact that he's taken on the captaincy so well and gelled everything together, means that he's player of the year for me. I also think his goal against, I actually forgot about it. I just came across it online. That outrageous volley in Denmark. From a purely footballing perspective, I know there's 50 passes or whatever for O'Reilly's goal, and that was just two touches, but it was so pure. I was actually amazed when I watched it back. I think I was too depressed at the time to properly savour it. And obviously Abada I don't think Abada's probably going to get every single vote in the house for young player. He deserves that by a mile. What a steal he's been, 19 years old, 3 million. Another amazing piece of recruitment. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I'm contradicting myself because I tweeted the other week there saying that goal from McGregor against Michelin is one of the best goals I've ever seen from a Celtic player, and I'm not giving it goal of the season, but that's because we get beat, and if we'd have won that game, that would definitely have been my pick. Right, I'm loath to round us up and ask for predictions for these games, but if you can't give me a scoreline, how do you see the game going, Chris?
I'm going to say 3-2 Celtic. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I know we've not conceded 2 goals in many games this year. I understand that, but I do actually think it's going to be a true cup game, very end-to-end. I think there's going to be lots of chances, and I think we will win the game 3-2.
Kenny?
I think we'll win by a couple, and I don't even like saying that, and it's actually unnerving feeling that because you don't want to tempt fate, but on the strength that they'll be fatigued, we've won the last 2 games on them. It looks like we've got their number. How we performed in the last outing was just outrageous. Throwing all that together on Hampden, I can't wait to see Maeda on Hampden. The big spaces, my God, he's going to cause hell on at the weekend, no doubt. So I think when you throw all that together, you can never be sure. But I can see he's winning by a couple of goals. Whether that's 3-1 or 2-0, I don't know. But I feel unusually confident getting into it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait for the game on Sunday. That's it for the preview show. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back with the starting 11 prediction on Saturday and then all the post-match reaction from the game at Hampden on Sunday. Thanks for watching.